Good morning, Yogi Clan. Welcome back to Yogi Cycle Service and Product Review Thursday. We are back, and we do have a product to review today, and that's progressive shocks. So let's go ahead and dig on in to see what those are all about. All right, welcome back. So, I'm going to be talking about my Softail Fat Boy, 2003 Softail Fat Boy. I ran the stock shocks on there till probably about 80,000 miles, if I remember correctly. Bike now has a little over 100,000 miles on it. And when I ran those to 80,000 miles, about 30,000 miles in, I decided, I want to put a lowering kit on this. So I got the White Brothers, I think it was called. You're taking me back in the time machine. So the White Brothers, it was you pull out the bolts from the shocks, you put these bolts in that has nuts that you can slide on there to raise and lower your bike. So if you slide the two nut combination out on your frame, that'll push the shock this way, which will push your tail end, I believe, up. And if you shorten that, it'll drop your tail end down. And when you drop it down, it raises your bike. When you put it out this way, it lowers your bike. And that worked pretty well. It was about, the bulk kit was probably about 85 bucks. If I remember correctly, take them out, you gotta put your, I think you had to put the shocks on a press, take those bolts out, put the new bolts in, and then put them back on your bike. The Harley shop wound up doing that for me, I think in 2005. When I was in there for a tire change. That was probably the last time the Harley shop has ever worked on my bike. But those shocks lasted probably about 80,000 miles. And the way that I could tell that they were getting worn out, it is not necessarily when I was riding two up and bottoming out. That wasn't really happening. The way I noticed is, when the bike starts, when those shocks get tired and they just can't handle the compression, the bike starts sitting and settling a little more. And when that happens, when the bike settles, your rear wheel's going up like this as the frame it's coming down, and that caused my belt to go up higher and rub against my primary case. So when the belt started rubbing against my primary case, on the right hand side of the belt, you can see it's missing all the ribs on the top of the belt. Not the teeth on the inside, but their ribs are on the belt on the top. And about half of that belt is worn off and the other half is still in good shape. I realized, it was starting to wear my belt out. Probably time for some new shocks. So I did some research. Everybody always talk about progressive shocks, how great and how wonderful they are. But if you look at the progressive shocks on Revzilla, they're like $499. The ones for Softail are progressive 422 shocks. And I wanted to be able to keep the ability to raise and lower my bike, so I bought the adjustable ones. I wound up finding those shocks somewhere else on sale for $350, the progressive 422s. And to change the shocks out by yourself, really not that hard. I just did one at a time. I would measure to the first bolt from the head of the shock out to the first bolt, say set it at 2 inches, and then go ahead and pull off the one shock, put that shock in there, and then set the next one 2 inches also, and then pull the left hand side off, because there are two shocks under a Softail, the right hand side and the left hand side. So instead of being out mounted on your frame like a touring bike or a Sportster, they're up underneath, but you still have two. So I pulled off the second one and then set the second one, and then from that point I measured my height and decided, I want to drop about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So then I then adjusted the bolts to move the frame on the bolt like that, so it raises and lowers your back end. So performance, how do they work? On those, when you buy those shocks, you have this tool called a spanner tool, and on the top of the shock there are 4 holes. You take the spanner tool and you can put it in 2 of the holes, and then you turn it. So the shock will go from 0, which is soft and squishy like a couch, and then you can turn it up to 5 rotations, 5 rotations being full compression, making your shock and your ride almost closer to a rigid style ride. So when I set mine, I went for a little more than 4.5 turns because I want it to be fairly rigid. I like it fairly rigid. Another reason is because I have it lowered so much. I don't want that much movement, so I'm not going to wear the belt out again. So yeah, I cranked it down. I cranked it down to about 4.5 turns, and I dropped it as low as I could go so the belt's not rubbing against the primary. And I have probably about 20,000 miles on those shocks, and so far they've held up pretty good. They are a nice shiny chrome on the case of the shock, which I really don't care because you can't see it anyways. They could be green or pink for all I care. But they send them to you for some reason, a nice shiny chrome, and I never go underneath my bike to wipe down. I don't think I've wiped off those shocks since the day I put them on there. I don't think I've cleaned them since then. So they're meant for shocks. They are not like a showpiece to my bike. So they have worked really well. I do really enjoy them. Like I said, I have the preload set to about 4.5 turns, and I have it lowered as far as it'll go. So I like the fact that they're adjustable for ride height, and I like the fact that they're adjustable for how stiff or how soft of a ride by adjusting the preload on it. I really do enjoy that. Maybe one day when those shocks wear out, I'll put an air ride system on there. I don't know. But for $350, they're a good deal. Now, I will also say this. From what I understand, Drag Specialties shocks are also made by Progressive. So, I don't know exactly. It's been a long time since I've done this research, but everything that I hear, the Drag Specialty shocks are made by Progressive and the exact same thing as Progressive. So you could probably save an extra $75. You might be able to get those for like maybe $300. But when I found the Progressive 422s for $350 versus not knowing for sure if it'd be the exact same shock with the exact same preload on there, I just decided to go with the brand name. Now, another thing I would keep in mind too is you can buy those 422 shocks as regular shocks, or I believe you can buy them in HD or heavy duty. Well, since I'm not a spring chicken, and I won't comment about my wife at all, but by the time you put me, who's not a spring chicken, and my wife on there, I decided to go with the HD, the heavy duty, because from what I understand, a regular shock is rated for up to 250 pounds. Heavy duties are for above 250. So since I'm right at 250, by the time you throw my wife on there, obviously I'd be above 250. So I did buy the heavy duty version, and like I said, they've been really good. I really like them. For my Ultra, when those start getting tired and worn out, I would highly recommend, and I'll probably definitely be looking at buying a pair of Progressives for there. However, I may do a little bit more research to see what the shocks sold by Drag Specialties offer, and do a little bit more research into the manufacturers of those shocks. But I am fairly certain that it is also Progressive. So check them out. Progressive usually has tents set up like down in Daytona when you're in Daytona. So if you go to any kind of major large rally, you'll probably see a Progressive tent there. So definitely check them out. I highly recommend them. I really like them. Good product, so I give them a good review. All right, Yogi Clan, be safe. God bless, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.